So how do you get from, high likelihood of sentience here, to, but let's not change any of our behavior with regards to this animal?
So, what actually happens here? What they had suggested and recommended outcomes from their evaluations. So I will read this out verbatim. The authors make a strong recommendation that all cephalopod mollusks and decapod crustaceans should be regarded as sentient animals for the purposes of UK animal welfare law. And then they also provide very helpful recommendations regarding commercial practices. They recommend against declawing, nicking, eye stalk ablation, and the sale of live decapod crustaceans to untrained, non-expert handlers, and they include suggestions for best practices for transport, stunning, and slaughter. They suggested to change a whole lot of things, but the way that and I read this from the the UK.gov website or whatever it is. Essentially, they've said that future legislation or future implementation will go by this, but nothing has changed up until this point.
This is something we've noticed over the last few years with the current situation, which we will not mention by name for the YouTube algorithm. But we have shown, our governments across the world have shown that when there is the will, we can do massive amounts of change.
Yeah.
We can upend the entirety of our economic system. Yes, in the short term, but we can do an awful lot of difference when we have the will. And yet we've got all this evidence of climate change, and we've got all this evidence of massive suffering for animals, and we don't know anything. Like, when it comes to climate change, we could have the same level of massive social change, and we just aren't doing it. And the same thing with animals. And I think that will come eventually.
How do we make money?
Well, but we didn't make. We had a quite a large drop in GDP because of the current situation.
Yeah, but that was because people were dying. Like, how do we make money?
Well, we make money by printing it and entering it into a computer. That's obviously not a good long-term strategy. What you're asking is, how do we make resources and how do we make wealth, right? How do we make like stuff to consume and stuff to
Well, we need to consume stuff, Luke.
No, we do need to consume some stuff.
But no, the world can never, like, are you telling me that we're gonna just stop producing an excess of stuff for no reason? That seems ridiculous. No. The planet can die so long as we have more stuff than is necessary.
Where will the jobs come from?
Louise.
but it's weird, isn't it? It's like in the case of animal sentience, like that's obviously on our governments around the world list of priorities fairly low. But when it comes to the current situation, or when it comes to global warming, that's starting to get quite high on the level of interest of us doing things about things. Although, you know, the threshold over which we start doing something is even higher than the list is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does seem super straight. I think that day will come. It's just that in the case of global warming, it'll come too late and we'll have to way overcorrect. But in the case of animal sentience, it's like, we've got all this evidence here. The day has come. What are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing about it?
Nothing. Why? Why would we? I mean, this is what's really frustrating, is that we need to have, we can have scientific evidence that, hey, maybe harming these other things is bad for them and they don't like it.
Yeah.
And still the government to shut people up will say, yep, we've declared them sentient. And everyone's like, wow, octopuses are sentient. Not knowing what that means, thinking, oh, we've decided that octopuses are like us. When actually what we've decided is octopuses can feel pain,
but we don't care.
We're not going to do very much about it.
Yeah, I suppose, because the thing is we're not even doing anything for a lot of the humans that are in pain. So why would we do anything for the octopuses?
Even the other animals that have been declared sentient for ages. Like, think about it. People think of, like, octopuses were declared sentient because they're like, oh, sentient being like humans, because I know that octopuses are very intelligent. They wouldn't necessarily think that cows are sentient in that context, right? Cows are sentient. We're just not allowed to, mistreat them too much.
Yeah.
But you can still have...
That involves killing.
Places limits. And I watched a really interesting documentary with it. I can't remember this lady's name, but I watched this really interesting documentary. This lady who's like she's dedicated her life to the really interesting design of slaughterhouses, for example, in order to reduce like the fear that cows.
Oh, so they don't see that their other cows are being killed.
Yeah. And also like it's like exploits the psychology of cows to like go around a corner or something like that. To like when they can't see where they're going, they'll keep walking. It's really, really interesting. Even like speaking of someone who doesn't eat this stuff, I'm obviously interested in reducing the suffering, but also part of the justification for it was like, well, if the cow's scared, then the meat's not
I was going to say that. Yeah, the cow that ruins the meat if you scare the animal. But that's why they're doing it.
Yeah, but this lady did say like, obviously, there are lots of people who choose not to eat meat, and I really respect that. I choose to eat it, but I'm trying to reduce the suffering of those animals too. And I thought that was really interesting.
It's fine. I don't know. I feel like, well, that's something. A few years ago, I was in work at the office job that I had, and it was a lot of white people. I wouldn't quite say fully racist or Islamophobic completely.
Ignorant.
No, beyond that.
Heavily ignorant.
What I'm saying is, I wouldn't say complete out and out Islamophobes, but they are Islamophobic. Okay. So there was a conversation being had in the office about, food, about how halal meat was just despicable. It's disgusting. Can you believe what they do? They hang them up and they drain them of their blood. Disgusting. And I was like, you guys are killing animals too. You realize that? And they were like, yeah, but I'm like, no. No, the level of bad starts and ends at I am killing this thing that I don't need to.
Yeah.
You have such a huge issue with the way that you don't have an issue with the way that like Muslim people kill you have an issue with Muslim people. You kill and eat animals
you
too.
Use that to justify the fact that you don't like.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever had veal?
Have you looked into how your meat is slaughtered?
Yeah, like it's like, have you looked into how it's raised? Are you telling me that you buy like you personally make sure that every single bit of meat that you buy comes from a very, very good farm where they're all well treated? No, you don't. And even if you do, the only reason that you can do that is because you've got the money to do it. Like,
and you also might eat halal meat.
You probably do.
You have no idea.
They're just honestly.
It's just that halal meat is required for Islam, but you might eat halal meat.
Yeah,
apparently a lot of store meat is halal just by accident.
Sure, that wouldn't be surprising.
Well,
it makes it easier.
They don't necessarily. They don't necessarily label it as halal.
It's just shut up. Honestly, when people that eat meat try to start taking the high road on what kinds of meat, like I genuinely and like I kind of get it, but like I mean, it comes when for me, I'm just like, unless you're sort of killing your own meat, killing your own animals, or sort of like going to a sort of local farm and getting that,
and you know how it's done,
and you know exactly how it's done. Shut up.
We're not telling you to not do it. We're just saying don't try and take the high road.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I fully respect people that eat meat and say, yeah, I have no justification for this. I like it. That is far more more acceptable to me than someone who tries to like tell me that, well, actually my meat is sustainable and it's better than. Shut up. No, it's not. No, it's not.
You know how much farmland vegan people need?
Do you think of it like all the processed meat, the vegan, and we're just eating a cow? What do you think is being fed to your cow? And two, what is wrong? You realize processing foods is not bad inherently.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's not. Oh gosh.
There's a really good video on this actually by Kurtzgesagt called "Is Meat Really That Bad?"
Oh yeah.
And every time I see a video of that, like I go to it and I'm like, oh god, this is what you do, Corey, when you are like someone comes to you with an argument that is a counter to something you believe, and you go away and you're like, oh god, maybe they're right, and you research it. Every time I see a video called "Is Meat Really That Bad?" I'm like, oh no, is it going to tell me that actually it's not that bad? And then pretty much all the time it's like, nah, it's that bad.
Is that bad?
And I'm like, oh phew.
The only time I ever see people saying meat isn't that bad, it's when it's with all these sort of buzzwords and phrases and go-to statements that I know are wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, people pointing out, oh, well, the vegan foods are processed. Do you know how much water is required to produce? Do you realize that it is not possible for every single person on this planet to eat the amount of meat that people generally do in sort of the Western countries, and also have all of that meat be grass-fed and sustainable?
And not cruel.
Yeah, and not cruel. Like it's not. So you're gonna have to feed them soy. Why not just feed us soy? Like
it's really tasty.
What bothers me is that the most simple concept of biomass does not seem to get through to these people.
Yeah, you were taught it in GCSE biology.
Yes.
Which is like the 10-to-1. Every time you feed something to an animal and then you eat that animal, you lose like 90% of the energy.
It just feels like people think that cows are coming from nowhere.
Yeah, they pop out of nowhere. The cows are there. You don't need to feed them anything.
Is that what you meant? Like the food chain, you lose 10 to 1?
That's exactly what I meant.
Yeah. I remember so well learning that in literally, I think, GCSE biology.
Yeah, and it winds me up because you need to give a cow a lot of. Cows are much bigger than us.
They have to be warm.
But you need to give a cow so much energy to make cow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also because it doesn't just use all that energy to make cow, it uses energy to keep cow being
Warm.
cow.
Yeah.
Right?
And move around.
And yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of wasted energy there. And then when you eat cow, there's even more wasted energy between like you eating cow and it becoming you and you using that energy. Just eat what cow eat.
Yeah.
Just eat the thing.
Yeah.
Just or use the land that you're using to raise all this stuff. And it just, oh my gosh, it's insane. It baffles me, honestly, that people just don't seem to get that very like that
I think
simple
they do
concept
get
is like
it.
the nail
I think
in
they
the.
just use little mental gymnastics things to get around the things they already know.
But if they just said, I just like eating meat.
Yeah, I'd be like, all right, I can't fault that. You live in a world where eating meat is normal. I respect that.
That's fine.
Kinda. Fine.
I mean, I genuinely enjoy meat. I like it. Sometimes I think about, well, wouldn't it be nice to be stuck on a desert island because at least then I could kill and eat a pig. Like, that'd be lovely. No, but I mean, like, I think about, honestly, I think about the